Opinions expressed are those of our show host, not WSTU or Church of Coast broadcasters. Any reproduction or reuse of this program without the express written consent of WSTU is strictly prohibited.
Dancing in the flame, the king is coming back again. So wrote the prophet John before his days were done. The king is coming and it won't be long.
And now here's Traven Sexton.
Good afternoon out there, radio world. I want to, first of all, thank Frank for allowing us to come in today and visit with him. And also my sidekick here, Pastor Dino's here with us. So
great to be with you, Traven. You're looking good.
Yeah, thank you. Again, another episode of The Preacher's Kid and the Pastor. So we have some distinguished guests with us today. I have the distinct privilege in introducing my daughter, Brooke, is here with us, and also my granddaughter, Annabelle. And our topic today is disability, and building awareness for those people out there that aren't maybe up on all the things that someone who's disabled deals with, not only the individual but also the caregiver. And I thought maybe I would have Annabelle, my granddaughter, who's 17, talk about her disability and some of the challenges that she faces. And then I'd also have my daughter fill in kind of the blanks, if you will, on some of the things a caregiver deals with, along with, we also have another granddaughter. So the sister too has to deal with some things, along with daddy too has to deal with some things. So we thought this was a pretty deep topic, but I've just happened to be in a situation where I have family members that's actually dealing with this. So without further ado, I would like to turn the microphone over to my granddaughter, Annabelle, and she also goes by Biz. That's her stage name. So, Annabelle, the floor is yours.
I'm going to jump in here. This is Brooke, Traven's daughter, and I'm going to help Annabelle out a little bit because she can be a little bit shy. And I'm just going to ask her a question to kick off. Annabelle, tell us about what happened. How did you become disabled? What was the starting point? And where are you now?
So I was born with a genetic disease, but it never really surfaced until I became a teenager and actually passed out and fell and sustained a traumatic brain injury, which we believe is due to the genetic disease. So the past almost 4 years at this point has just been us kind of unwinding everything that has been going on really since I was born, but we just never knew about it.
And tell us a little bit about how it affects your day-to-day.
So I had to leave school. I do a private online high school. I have lots of mobility issues. I use orthotics to walk, and I use a wheelchair. I also use crutches.
How about things you used to do?
So,
is there any difference?
Yeah, so I was a pre-professional ballerina. I was in ballet from the age of 10 to 14. So that was definitely a big change. I have not yet been able to go back. Like I said, I had to leave school, so that was another very, very big change, going from being in school to just being home all the time. Yeah, I lost a good amount of independence, which I have gained back a lot of. But I went from being 14, I could, hang out with my friends, go to school, do ballet, do kind of just what normal 14-year-olds do, to being scared to use the bathroom by myself because I was afraid of passing out, and needing help with like my daily tasks. Like, I couldn't shower by myself, I couldn't get dressed, I couldn't feed myself. So yeah, being 14, 15 and like not being able to take care of yourself is a big adjustment.
Yeah, it's interesting that what you described, because as you guys know, I'm in the financial services, and one of the products that we provide for our clients is long-term care, and we deal with what we call the activities of daily living for people who are maybe moving towards needing some additional help in a nursing home or that type of environment. But as you're describing that, you're dealing with some of the same things as our people deal with as we age and move into needing help, professional help. So I don't know that you were aware of that, but that description really gives you a pretty good picture of what somebody is dealing with that has a disability. So, I mean, one of the things you mentioned, your genetic disease, can you expound on that? Is there specific things? I know you've dealt with some Ehlers-Danlos syndrome and some FND and POTS. And so there's been a number of different diagnoses that has been offered by the medical community, but maybe you and your mom could speak to that.
Yeah, so the genetic disease that I have is called hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It's a genetic connective tissue disorder. It affects primarily joints, but it really affects the entire body because connective tissue is everywhere.
Yeah, and in addition to, joints being super flexible, which is what people think of when they think of EDS, HEDS, there's a lot of just things that are invisible. GI issues, fatigue, headaches. And then with EDS, there are other what they call comorbidities, which are other things that you're likely to have. Annabelle really hit the trifecta because she has the other things that you have with HEDS. So she also has something called MCAS, which is mast cell activation. And that's not fun.
No, it's really not.
Yeah. And then she also has another issue. It's called autonomic dysfunction or dysautonomia, a lot of names. POTS is the one that's most common that people know. And people hear about it in the media. There was a swimmer at the Olympics that has POTS, Katie Ledecky. I'm sure people have heard, and they're looking at her and going, wow, she's an Olympic swimmer and she has POTS, and that's amazing. POTS, like many of these disorders, is a spectrum. So some people function really well with it. It's easy to deal with, easier. I shouldn't say easy. None of it's easy to deal with. And then some people have these kind of really detrimental outcomes. Unfortunately, Annabelle's dealing with a more detrimental outcome from POTS. She passes out a couple times a day. She's on probably 5-6 medications for POTS alone. It's still not well controlled. She has extreme fatigue. So it's very difficult to deal with. It's not as simple as it can appear. So, and that's like one piece of the puzzle. So that's genetic. So you guys are looking in the studio at Annabelle and I. Annabelle deals with a lot of issues. Annabelle and I both have all three of those things. So to look at the two of us, you probably wouldn't say like, oh, mom is sicker than Annabelle, or maybe Annabelle's sicker than mom, right? Because the issues that we deal with, they're invisible. They're invisible illnesses, which makes it really hard for people to look at you every day and say, "Oh, she looks fine." That's really the struggle for people out there that have these things. Is people look at them and say, "Oh, they look fine. They look healthy," but inside, it's like this morning when it was time to get out of bed, I was like, "I'm not sure. I'm exhausted. The fatigue is real today." And Annabelle deals with that every day, just being able to get up and do some schoolwork and that kind of thing. It's hard. It's a lot to deal with. And so that's the conversation we really wanted to have today, because there are people out there like Annabelle who are dealing with this every day, and people don't understand that it's a real struggle because it is invisible, because people look okay. It's not the same as if you have a broken arm and someone can see that and they'll say, "Oh, you must be in a lot of pain. You have a broken arm."
Yeah, it's interesting when Brooke was a kid, and actually it extends to my wife, her mother, Sandy. When she was younger, when we were younger teenagers, she was able to put her lower leg behind her, and she would literally like lay down on the floor and watch TV. And I'm like, I'm hurting watching you do this.
This was Sandy?
This was Sandy, yeah. So she has this too. And when we were kids, when we were younger, we used to call it like they had like I think we call it like loose joints, right? They could do things
double jointed.
double jointed. That was the
double-jointed.
term. And then when Brooke was younger, she was in gymnastics. I don't know if you remember this, but she was in gymnastics, and I would go to watch her sometimes, and I would say to Sandy, "It's like, how is she doing this?" And then when she got on the dance floor, she was dancing like at a wedding or something. And I'm like, I can't make my body do those things. Now I was a little older, but I was a pretty good dancer at one time. But she would make some moves. I'm like, wow, I could never do that. We didn't know at the time that it was really part of this disease. Mm-hmm. And that, so when somebody sees that, like Brooke said, it's a silent disease because you can't see it, and so it's been a struggle, to deal with this.
So Brooke, I want to ask you for clarity. Well, you're saying that a lot of what Annabelle has, you have, is that what you're saying? Or
Yes.
you have, okay.
I do. So I also have HEDS. I also have POTS. I also have mast cell activation, as well as a lot of other things.
When she was born, did you know this? Or
I did not. It's actually interesting how it came about. I have an older daughter as well, Amelia. When Amelia was about in 6th grade, I was having issues with my joints, which I had my whole life. But back when I was a kid, there wasn't a lot of, there's still not a lot of research about this. But back when I was a kid, it was kind of like, oh, you had growing pains and, whatever. We didn't even know to look into any kind of genetic testing or whatever. It was just, oh, she can do great moves on the dance floor. So when Amelia, my older daughter, was about a 6th grader, she played cello. She plays a lot of instruments, and she's a beautiful musician, and she started having wrist issues. And we thought, oh, maybe it's how she's holding her bow. Maybe she's practicing too much. At the same time, I started having wrist issues, and it was, mom works in corporate America. Maybe she's typing too much and this and that. So we start with the doctor's appointments, and we had a surgeon tell me that Amelia, who was in 6th grade at the time, needed double carpal tunnel surgery, so both wrists. And I'm like, there is no way I'm putting my child through carpal tunnel surgery. That doesn't make any sense. I found a physical therapist through a friend who started seeing me and who started seeing Amelia for our pain. And he just happened to be the authority in the area on HEDS, EDS. And he started kind of feeling our joints, and was like, you guys feel EDS. He's like, I can feel it. You feel like EDS. And that kind of started the journey of like, we need to ask more questions, because I always had something going on. And my mom always had something going on. She'd say, I have this weird thing going on, and we'd laugh. Now, all the things I made fun of her for, I have going on, right? And now I'm like, oh, shoot, I was making fun of my mom. And so that started the journey of there's something else underlying, and I lived through it, and I'm not going to let my kids live through it. And then Annabelle started having issues. So then the three of us kind of started exploring this maybe we have this genetic connective tissue disorder. It's really hard to find doctors to diagnose this. So we didn't find doctors until fast forward after Annabelle had her accident and sustained the concussion. And then we started getting these diagnoses. And now we're finding out all kinds of things we had that we never knew we had, and kind of putting all the pieces together. So it is very much a work in progress.
Yeah, I'm going to say this to you, Annabelle. I appreciate you coming on here.
Yeah.
And this, I'm sure, took a lot of courage to come on here. You got all these mics sticking around here. Your favorite color was yellow. We gave you a red mic, I see. But I want to thank you for your courage, because you are going to tonight help a lot of people. And how old are you, hon? You're
I'm 17.
17. At 17 years of age, you're going to help a lot of people tonight. And so I want to thank you for your courage. I didn't mean to interrupt the question, but I wanted to say that to you before I got too late here.
Yeah, and one of the things, and I know Brooke has addressed this, and we've had discussions, but we've talked a little bit about the physical. I'd like to have Annabelle, maybe if she would, and Brooke also, talk about the emotional toll that something like this takes on someone who's dealing with a disability, and it's tough. It's tough. So anybody wants you to talk about that, some of the things you deal with?
Yeah, well, I mean, being 17 and having to use a wheelchair and crutches and custom-made orthotics definitely takes a toll on your confidence. I mean, you're already a teenager struggling to figure out who you are, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, you can't walk. It's like, it's really, really hard emotionally to go to school in a wheelchair when you were walking yesterday, and all the other kids are like, why are you in a wheelchair? And I'm like, well, my hip dislocated yesterday. And then they're like, well, why are you at school? And I'm like, well, because this is my normal. And losing friends. And yeah, it can be really isolating because I'm not at school. I can't work. I can't really do like extracurricular stuff because my body is so erratic that it's hard to find friends and make friends, and yeah, it gets pretty lonely.
I think there's also the emotional piece of like when the accident happened. So when Annabelle passed out and fell and sustained a concussion, we lost the version of her that was part of our lives at that time. Like the old Annabelle, the ballet Annabelle, and the in school with friends Annabelle, that Annabelle is gone. We have a new version of Annabelle. Like Annabelle 2.0 is amazing. But there was that piece of loss, right? And every year we actually celebrate the anniversary of her concussion for the person she's become, because she's strong and amazing. And then there's the piece about, there are the doctors that are supposed to be helping us, and there are some incredible doctors that have helped us. But there have been some along the way that have not been helpful as well. And so that's a big emotional piece too, is like finding the team that works for you and fits with you and helps you. And there are some kind of, I want to say, scars left behind from that journey. And Annabelle, I mean, Pastor Dino said it. Thank you for coming and sharing. I tell Annabelle this every single day. I read something totally cheesy online, but I'm going to repeat it. Like a butterfly can't see how beautiful its own wings are. I think that represents Annabelle so well. Like she doesn't understand just how powerful she is by sharing what's happening in her life for the people who are out there who are feeling alone and dealing with this.
Brooke, in the medical field, is this kind of a challenge for doctors because of lack of information? Because all the things that you just mentioned, if I were a physician, I would say maybe we need to get a lot of help on this thing. Is that correct? Or
I think it's lack of resources. I think it's lack of information. I don't think some of the things that we have going on are that uncommon, but I think they are vastly understudied. So for Annabelle and I and Amelia specifically, there are doctors in our area who don't know how to help us. And so we travel to doctors outside of our state to find help for these things. And that that's another piece. Like, I have notes here of all the things to share. Like, that is a huge burden on our family as well. There's this huge financial burden where if we had an illness or a disease that was well studied and understood and had resources, we could go, down the street to the hospital and we'd get help. But that's not where we are. Where we are is the medical community doesn't have the information and they don't have the resources. And so we are literally combing the country for who can help us. And then we are paying out of pocket to travel there, and paying out of pocket for appointments, and paying out of pockets for medications that are created for other issues, but are used and studied for the things that we have. And it is hard. It is so hard. It is a big stressor on my husband. And it's, he's, pounding the grindstone every day to make the money so that we can be taken care of. And I am a full-time caretaker, and it is not easy. And that's another struggle that people don't see. It's like, oh, you're sick. Well, insurance pays for it, but they don't. Right. They do, but they don't. Our insurance is wonderful. They pay for a ton of things for us, but there are things that they can't or won't for whatever reason. They don't pay when we fly out to Utah to go to specialty clinics and spend a week there because we need to see these autonomic neurologists and immunologists because we can't get them at home.
I've run across just a number of people recently, Brooke, with similar type of situations. I don't think as in depth as what you're going through, but I think what you're saying now would be of tremendous help to them. Because I just talked to a lady, I don't know, 2-3 days ago, a friend of ours, can't find the doctor. They're talking about going to Utah. Where were they going to get the money? They're retired people. So I guess this is common when you go through this. Is that accurate?
There is a pocket of people, as far as I can see, that are dealing with exactly what we're dealing with. I hope that there is a point where our medical community recognizes the need and makes resources available everywhere.
When you say as far as you can see, are you saying there's a lot of people like that? Or when you say as far as you can see, what do you mean by that?
I kind of mean exactly what I said. As far as I can see, meaning they're all over this country. If you get onto social media, they're everywhere. They're in every state. But also, I mean, as far as I can see, like in the communities, like when we go to these specialty doctors, you see all these little Annabelles with their purple walkers and their funky wheelchairs.
That's what I thought you meant. I just want to make sure.
But yeah, I kind of mean it exactly both ways that you took it. It's like I physically am seeing these people, but also our whole country is filled with these people. If you jump online and you know where to look, there are moms everywhere online and like POTS groups that are like, my child can't go to school. What do I do? The school can't help them. What are you doing? Just begging for help. And I'm like, I have so been there, and it is so hard, and you are not alone.
Yeah, the other thing that, just I was thinking as Brooke was talking, prior to them going to roughly about 3 or 4 weeks ago, they went to a clinic in Salt Lake City for a week. And they have another follow-up appointment there for another week in November, which is, again, takes a tremendous financial burden on a family. But prior to that, Brooke had done research that involved the University of Stanford and talked to many of the medical community there, went down that road, only to find out that wasn't really the right fit. She did some research with Hasbro Children's in Providence. Again, that's a possibility down the road. We looked at the Cleveland Clinic because we're originally from Ohio, and we think the Cleveland Clinic's a pretty good facility. She also looked at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. So she's done just an incredible amount of research, along with Annabelle too, has helped. But it's been a challenge, just researching, trying to find those right people that can help you. But there's more people out there than you would realize that have this issue or similar issues, because I know Annabelle's been on social media with them, and I've seen it. So there's a number of people out there dealing with this, but again, it's a bigger issue because in our society, we're always, we're concerned about heart disease. We're concerned about high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, obviously, and those things are important. They're critically important. But but people also have other afflictions that affect their life that we should be aware of and try to help find ways to deal with it.
Too, right?
They're hidden, yes. So I just wanted to throw that out there because Brooke, she's been kind of Annabelle's advocate, and literally without having that caregiver, it's really difficult.
Mhm.
And Dino, I know that you've done that for Bobby.
Mm.
You know, she's had some health issues, and you've been there for her, and that's a job.
Yeah, my wife has had 21 years of cancer, so it's been a struggle. But yeah, your story, just recently I've heard so many people say something similar, not to the depth of what you're talking about. I want to make that clear. But where's the doctor? Where's the people? And so forth. Do we need a break here, Frank? I know it's probably.
Yeah, you're right on time.
This is fascinating, so we could go all the way to the end if we get our break.
Very good. We'll be right back, so stick with us. Okay, and now back to Pastor Dino.
Thank you, Frank. This is a fascinating topic today, and it really touches our hearts, touching my heart, dealing with disabilities and caregiving. The weeks to come, you'll be hearing a topic, everyone needs a father. That's so true today. And we'll talk about fatherhood and the importance of having a father in your life. We've been asked questions about prayer. We're going to look at the 3 major times Jesus prayed in the scriptures and how he prayed. Another topic that Draven and I have been talking about is challenging of overcoming addictions in life. And so these are some fascinating topics that are coming up. I do want to invite everyone to come to our church, Stuart Congregational Church. Our church is so behind this and so excited about we being on right now. The address of our church is 3110 Southeast Astor Lane, Stuart, Florida. 3110 Southeast Astor Lane, Stuart, Florida. Draven, I think we have the most beautiful auditorium in the area, don't you think? Yeah.
Stained glass there. It's just fantastic.
Yeah. And they're all good looking people, aren't they?
Especially in the choir.
And I have seen you there, by the way. This Sunday, I'll be speaking on Jesus is Lord, Lord of the Sabbath. And we're going to be talking about that. Come to the service 10 o'clock. We'd love to have you come. and we so appreciate being on here with WSTU. We just made a major executive decision here, Frank,
Oh,
and there's only 3
tell.
executives in here.
Yeah.
And we asked these dear ladies to come back, and I guess they felt obligated because we put them on the spot. They're coming back next week
Nice.
because there's so much that we want to deal with here.
Yeah.
So, Trayvon, you want to go through the sponsors? We
I
have
do,
had some
I
wonderful
do.
sponsors, and you go ahead and carry on with our conversation here.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out there. We want to be appreciative of Pools by Greg. This is a custom builder that's been building swimming pools here in the Stuart area for over 40 years. Just fantastic people. If you're considering putting in a pool in, please call them. Or if you're considering maybe revamping an existing pool, please call them. They can be reached at 772-337-9713. Again, 772-337-9713. Pools by Greg. Terrific people. Give them a call. Other sponsors that we've worked with is Larry Grubb and Tom again at Two Anchors Plumbing LLC, and they've done a number of jobs I know for the church. I have not used them yet, but I know Dino, they've done just some great work at the church.
They're the best. They really
Yeah,
are.
They're just fantastic. Again, number there 772-210-2084. And also 772-201-3516. Again, 772-210-2084 and 772-201-3516. I want you to give both of those numbers just in case you can't get through on one. You'll try the other one. Again, for your plumbing professional needs, call Two Anchors Plumbing, LLC. Larry, Tom, great. Also, Paul Piatti. Paul Piatti, I have the privilege of singing with in the choir. He's a really great singer. He sings bass, but I know he can do baritone. I know he can do tenor. I don't know if he can do soprano, but he's a pretty good singer.
He plays trumpet too. By the
Oh,
way.
does he? I
Yeah.
did not know that.
Very
That's
gifted
amazing.
man. He is.
He really is. But
And during the Boy Scout years, he played bugle.
oh, is that
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
I could see him doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Paul has his own company, Paul Piatti Home Improvements. Again, he can be reached at 772-546-3403. I don't think there's any job too big for him. He's a true professional, been doing this for a long time. Again, call Paul at 772-546-3403 for all your home improvement needs. And then I want to thank Dino. He was one of our sponsors too. Thank you for helping us with this program. It's
my privilege and my honor.
program.
Thank you.
And he's terrific too. We love him. He's this guy. He writes books. He does talk radio, does TV
Does
shows.
TV.
I don't know if I've seen him dance yet, but he's
Oh.
pretty good at these things.
Well, I tell people, Trayvon, when they read my book, if they don't like it, let me know. I'll send them my sympathy.
And of course, I'll give a shout out to myself. Yours truly here.
Yes, that's
Saxon
the best
Financial
right there.
Group. We were in the comprehensive financial planning realm. Our office has been here in the Stuart area for over 40 years. And we do individual planning, personalized planning. And especially recently, I added a discipline on Social Security. I was a registered Social Security analyst. So if you want to go through that process to see whether or not when you should be taking Social Security, give us a call. Our number is 772-223-4000. Again, 772-223-4000. You'll typically reach my assistant, Marnie Moak, and she'll make sure that we get you on the calendar, and we look forward to meeting with you. Again, thanks to all of our sponsors. You're terrific.
Yeah, that's wonderful. They've been great support to us. Well, I remember years ago, Trayvon, I was at the hospital in Philadelphia, the Children's Hospital, to visit a family that had some major issues with their child. I remember walking through those hallways and feeling rather overwhelmed. I kind of thought, boy, it'd be nice if Jesus came right now and healed all these people. I just was overwhelmed. How do these people address it? I feel a little that way tonight, really, with both of you. You've been such a blessing, Brooke and Annabelle. Thank you for coming on. And I think that you shared something with us, as you said a few moments ago. It's very almost universal, isn't it? It's something that's around everywhere. And so I want to just thank you for being on here tonight. It's been really great. And Trayvon, I think you've got a couple questions there you want to jump right into.
Yeah, one of the, I don't know which hospital you were at, but I know Annabelle and Amelia both were born at Children's Hospital in Camden. Camden, yeah. So I
Ours was in
remember.
Philadelphia.
Right
was
in
at.
Philly.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
We were across the water, the river, so to speak.
Mm.
But that's interesting. Yeah, we've talked a little bit about physical, a little bit about emotional, touched a little bit on financial. I don't know if Brooke, if you want to go into more of that, but also how it has affected the family, other family members, how that's kind of played out in your mind.
Oh, I could go on for hours. It's a lot. So I know I mentioned, like, my husband's he's working hard to take care of all of us every day, and it's not easy to be the sole financial provider. Being a caretaker and being sick is a full time job. Actually, being sick is a full time job. Being a caretaker is a full time job. Being a mom, just a healthy mom with healthy kids is a full-time job. Shout outs to the moms out there. So, it's definitely stressful on my husband. It's definitely stressful on the relationship between a husband and wife because there's not a lot of extra time to spend together. And then, I have another daughter who's sick. So it's definitely whoever needs the most attention on any given day. So that's not easy. And then from an extended family standpoint, we depend on my parents a lot. My mom and dad fly out, they help us, they'll do doctor's appointments with us. They'll help us financially. If we need help, they're definitely there for us. And I know a lot of people don't have that. And so we are lucky to have that. And then, there are family members who don't understand. There are family members who, Annabelle had her kind of accident, and it's kind of like, well, aren't you better now? There are family members who don't understand what chronic illness is and how it takes a toll.
So, Brooke,
and
how do they learn? I mean, what is there something that can be done to help them to learn in a situation like that? Because I've been sitting here thinking of that. How do you teach people that, or is that just something that is just overwhelming to do?
I think being here today and just sharing is the best way to help people understand. I try to be open and talk candidly with our family about it. Some people get it and some people don't. And I think that's just the way of the world. I don't think it's just about illness or, whatever it is. I think sometimes people just get it and sometimes they don't.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine that was an associate of mine at the college whose wife had dementia 11 and a half years, and then she passed at 11 and a half years. I mean, bad dementia. And every once in a while he'd run into people and they were embarrassed almost. Well, I prayed for you, and you wonder maybe they didn't pray for them, And so I've often wondered, how do you communicate these kind of things? Because it's a burden to you to do that, I would think. I mean, you just can't keep talking about it. And so I think maybe to the audience out there, that's something that is a good conversation, Traven, to have in the community. Talk through that.
It is. One of the purpose, obviously, is for this particular program was to build awareness out there. People that do have physical, emotional disabilities. Some of them you can see, some of them you can't. But I always think about, always when you see somebody, say hello, say good morning, because most people are dealing with issues that none of us have any idea. Some of them are physical, some are emotional, some are financial. So just be kind. And it's okay if you see somebody in a wheelchair or crutches, it's okay. It's not gonna rub off on you. You can say good morning to them. How's your day going?
That's good advice. Yeah.
Shake their hands.
And on the other thing, my dad, I've spoken about him. He's a character as you guys are getting to know, but my dad, like, I think about him sometimes. If you are those people out there that do have a physical disability or any other disability, it's okay for you to when you see somebody, if you're in a wheelchair, don't become a victim. It's okay for you to say good morning, because as my dad would say, he said, I may have a disability, but I'm not dead. I can still speak. I can still hear. I can still see. I can still talk. So those people too have an obligation, assuming they feel well enough to do so, to just reach out to people, and people will reach back. And I think about the Rotary Club. I was a member, and I taught my granddaughter Amelia. She went with me one time, and she really liked it. And I said, "Hey, what was the best thing you liked about Rotary?" She said, "They talked about if you extend your hand of friendship, that's how you build friends. If you want to have friends, you have to show yourself to be friendly." And I think that's correct, because we all have an obligation, whether we have a disability or not, we all have an obligation to reach out to each other and show a little kindness.
Yeah,
That's
good.
So I want you to
Only
think
time I
about.
ever see Frank ever antsy when it's break time, right?
You can read body language very well.
Sorry,
We'll be
Frank.
right back. And now here's Traven Sexton.
We were finishing up in kindness, and I want to toss it over to Annabelle and have her speak to as she approaches people out there in society, kind of what she's seen as how she's approached, if you will. So Annabelle, if you'd speak to that, I think that's powerful.
Yeah, I know you were talking about like just kindness and just saying hello or good morning to people in public and not being, like afraid of people with a disability. And for me personally, like, yes, I use a wheelchair, I use crutches. I like am a lot of the time visibly disabled. And I therefore get a lot of stares. But I'd honestly just rather people come up to me and ask me, like, I am more than happy to talk about my disability, like, little kids are really great at coming up to me and going, "What's that for?" And I answer them to the best of my ability, but adults seem to feel that they can't ask somebody, and, I mean, I don't wanna speak for all disabled people ever, but for me personally, I really do enjoy when people ask me about my disability.
I want to say this too to our listeners. These two ladies will be on next week with us. So, if you know people that are in this kind of situation, make sure they stay tuned next week, 5:05 WSTU, Friday night, and we will have this again next week and go a little deeper into this. This is the topic. Traven, you and I talked about it. We could probably go for weeks more. We got other stuff we got to do, but we could go about with this for weeks. But I think what will happen this week and next week is that we will be able to touch some hearts. Yes. And maybe I think what you said a while ago about where do you find the help? You raise all this money, you got to travel like I said, my neighbors are going to Utah and all that kind of thing. I think just talking about that is therapeutic. It really brings out the best.
Yeah, one of Frank, and I don't know how much time we have, but one of the things that I do want to talk about either today or possibly next week is some of the things that Annabelle has done along with Brooke's guidance to show that hope, to have that hope. What do you do that's positive to help you stay positive? And I think they have a Yorkshire Terrier, Seeker is her name, and she brings a lot of joy because she's a lover. So I know that Annabelle's close to her, and Annabelle has two guinea pigs or three now.
Three
Guinea pigs. Yeah,
Yeah, we collected another one.
Yeah, she's got one
collected.
We got one.
What's the dog's name again?
Her name is Seeker.
Seeker. I like
Yeah,
that.
we had to put the one guinea pig in her own pen because she's a little ornery, But
Kind of like we are once in a while.
yeah, and then Annabelle just recently is taking up the guitar, so she's
Oh,
so I've
Congratulations.
got her
That's pretty
excited.
cool.
But she also crochets, and she's literally created a business around crocheting. So either she can
I
speak
can
to
see
that,
a
or
business model going
Yeah.
on here. Yeah.
so she does farmers markets and different things. But she could speak to that maybe today and or next week. We can go a little bit more detail. But she's managed to really kind of stay positive in light of this storm. She still stays pretty positive dealing with this. So that's
Think
to her
about
credit.
those things, Annabelle. I think probably next week is when we're going to have to. We're about out of time here, are we?
No, we've got another about 5 minutes or so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
that's great. Yeah. Okay.
So Annabelle,
yeah.
if you want to maybe talk about one of those topics, maybe the business or your how
Yeah.
you deal with some of the stress.
I can see you having like your autograph on the your work and being really sought after on the internet.
Yeah. Well, that would be
You know,
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually started crocheting as a hospital activity because, like I said, I was always a dancer. I was in theater. I was always involved in arts. And once I had my accident, I was in and out of the hospital, in bed a lot, and I didn't have that creative outlet that I had grown up with. So crochet, while it leaves yarn fuzzies everywhere, is a fairly low mess activity that I could do in the hospital or bring with me to doctor's appointments. And it's really soothing
Fills in the idle time.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And about a year or so after I had taught myself to crochet, my parents were gonna we have literal garbage bags full of plushies in our basement. Can you you should sell these? And I was like, nobody wants to buy these. But with enough convincing from my mom, who is my biggest cheerleader and advocate all the time, I actually did start selling last summer. And this year, I continued selling my plushies that I crochet. And it has been a really great experience for me. Not only has it been good as far as it's a business, so I am making money, which is nice as a teenager, but it also has given me exposure to people in my community and other people with disabilities or little kids who I get to educate about disabilities because they'll come up and ask me.
Or little kiddos who don't want to wear their AFOs and their moms are super grateful that this big girl is wearing hers and can set a good example.
Yeah, and then also just the joy that people have by seeing my work, something I made brings other people joy is just so rewarding.
And I'm going to say, not because I'm her mom, although I am her mom and she's wonderful. Her work is beautiful. It is impeccable. Her stitching is amazing. If you need a crocheted plushie, Annabelle's your girl.
Oh my
I gotta give her a plug because
Sounds like
Now you're in business,
Yeah,
Annabelle.
there it is.
I got to give her a plug because she joined a group of, let's just say, senior citizens that do crocheting, and they just could not. They were taken back on how tight Annabelle's her stitching is. So they're like, "How'd you do that?" So she's competing with a professional. So for us older folks, what's a plushie?
Yeah.
A plushie is just like a stuffed animal, a
okay.
toy with like a soft toy.
Yeah, that was my, I'm thinking you can branch out into some other products though, like, Afghan cover, throws for the couch or something like that,
Interesting.
So yeah, I could see a business model here.
I think
Yeah,
you should put
yeah.
Frank on your
Yeah.
board.
Yeah.
He's got all kinds of ideas here.
And I guess she does have a business. It's called Bizzle Buddies, correct? And it,
Nice.
yes, yeah. So she's up and running. And I'm happy to report that I actually convinced her to open up an investment account. So she's rocking and rolling already.
All right.
Wow,
Well
that's
done.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, fantastic.
So any other thoughts or comments, Annabelle or Brooke, to kind of close us out?
I'm just going to make one. I just want to say to anyone out there dealing with chronic illness, we see you. And if you just got out of bed today and that's all you could do, that's enough. You did great. If you got all your errands done today and you still had time to chill and do something fun, that's great too. We know it's hard and we see you. And so we're sending you some love and some hugs to let you know that you're doing great.
Oh, that's great. Don't forget now, Sunday morning, 10 o'clock, 3110 Southeast Astor Lane, our church, Stuart Congregational Church. We'd love to see you here. You'll see Traven up front singing with the choir. I guess the choir's singing Sunday, maybe not. I'm not sure.
I think we have a soloist.
Soloist, yeah. I think
so
Hannah's singing
we have
Sunday.
time off this.
Yeah, giving you a break.
Giving us a break. Yeah.
Giving you a break. And then Sunday, we're dealing with the Lordship of Christ. That is He Lord in our lives. So be with us.
Very good. Well done. Well, another wonderful show. Thank you so much, Brooke and Annabelle, for joining us here in the studio. We look forward to seeing everybody here next week.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Dancing in the flame. The king is coming back again. So wrote the prophet John before his days were done. The king is coming and it won't be long.